Okay, holy moly, we are finally on our final draft analysis of the Commander Draft. At number 24, we had a lot of contestants in this tournament. So, number 24, we're going to be looking at my team, or Ross. So, I scored my overall team a 39. I tried very hard to be as uh, objective as possible with this. So, basically, any score that I thought that I had, I kind of lowered it and thought about some of the things that could be hurting it as much as I could. So please correct me if anything is too high or too low. Please be critical. I'm totally open for that. I really, really would like to see other people's thoughts on my team. But I will not get into all the things that I thought about with my team and all that stuff. I'll do that in a different video. But yeah, so overall, I scored this a 39. Um, I drafted Florges as my captain, Registeel, Mega Ampharos, Ambipom, Simeon, Behem, Rotom Fan, Clawitzer, and Thwacky. So, sorry, I gotta organize myself here. So first off, the offense, I scored a 8.5. I think this probably could have been a higher score, maybe lower. The thing that I felt was holding me back was my wall breakers weren't super incredible. Mega Ampharos and Clawitzer, um, Behem and Pessimian, both being okay wall breakers with analytic, and then adamant Pessimian. I wouldn't necessarily say Jolly Pessimian is a wall breaker. Um, Clawitzer for sure. The only thing is Clawitzer can easily be taken advantage of, especially if it's spexed. Um, the other thing is Mega Ampharos cannot carry an item, and you definitely know what it's bringing. It's Thunderbolt and Dragon Pulse, as it's basically two attacks. I mean, Hidden Power is there, but you're going to wall break. Those are the two attacks that you're going to be doing with it. So, as for options and coverage, I feel like my offense was pretty good. I could basically cover anything with my move sets or my team. It was basically just came down to how it was utilized and what I did with them. So, but offensively, the Pokemon that I'm going to be going over are Mega Ampharos, Ambipom, Pessimian, Behem, Rotom Fan, Clawitzer, and Thwacky. Before we get into those guys, I do want to mention that I think Florges should have fit in this offensive category. I don't know. I guess rust and nerves, being in such a high caliber tournament now with so many more incredible players. Florges was actually a really good offensive option for my team. I felt in the beginning I was pretty cornered into bringing Florges defensively and you can take advantage of every single game. Later on, I found out that Matt's running Primarina, and most fairies are going unchecked. They're just firing off Moonblasts and doing a shit ton of damage. Why can't Florges do it? Florges has pretty good stats to be offensive. Actually, really good in my opinion. You have 112 special attack, you have 78 HP, 154 special defense, 75 speed. So I mean, it could definitely be an attacker in this draft. 75 speed is not too bad. That's going to outspeed some offensive threats and a lot of defensive threats. So I found out much later that Specs Floor just is really hard to check. So I do want to mention that as a good option offensively. But onto the ones that I'm going to focus on is Mega Ampharos. Mega Ampharos having Mold Breaker was really nice because I didn't have to worry about Volt Absorbers, which there was a Jolteon. Can't remember if there was another. Oh yeah, there was Lightning Rod on 2. I think Electivire and Mega Sceptile were both in the Shield category. I know for sure Mega Sceptile was. I'm not 100% on Electivire, but not having to worry about that is nice. Not to mention there wasn't too many like ground types, so it wasn't terrible. But its move pool is pretty little offensively. As special attacking, you have Volt Switch, Thunderbolt, Dragon Pulse, Focus Blast, Discharge, and then Hidden Power, of course, which really I think helped Mega Ampharos out, allowing me to check those options that are going to come in and try and immune my Thunderbolt or immune my Dragon Pulse or resist both those Steel types. So overall, I think Mega Ampharos stats allowed me to really put my EVs into different places, so I think it was a pretty good offensive option. But really, that's all it had. It was pretty hard to leave out for a long time in the match, since it was easily walled or immuned in some cases. So, but next we have Ambipom, Technician. You guys know Technician fake out. It just hurts, 30 to 40% depending who you're hitting, potentially more. So, not to mention Ambipom having great move pool. And being allowed to use return in this was really nice. So you have return, ice punch, thunder punch, fire punch, low kick, U-turn, C-bomb, gunk shot, knockoff. Just a huge plethora of coverage. Could really cover anything. Not to mention pursuit is allowed in this draft, so I was able to utilize that as well if I needed it. Although I felt Ambipom was not the greatest to use pursuit. It was a pretty hard read to do pursuit, considering Ambipom's pretty frail. No matter who I'm pursuing, if they decide to attack instead and they're faster, potentially just KO Ambipom. So, and then I wouldn't be able to get anything. Then we have Simeon, which was a really great pickup for me later in the draft. Surprised this wasn't like a really top pick for anybody. I mean, it was a great fighting type. It's bulky. It's got that base 80 speed, which is really nice. Hits that 284. And then, of course, he has Defiant, which is nice, and his coverage is awesome. So you have Close Combat, U-Turn, Knockoff, Earthquake, Rock Slide, Gunk Shot, Iron Head, Drain Punch, and Bulk Up if you choose to set him up. So very, very good Pokemon for me. The U-Turn was really nice. Just a really good offensive Pokemon for any team. Fits anywhere, especially as a good lead. It's really great to scout out. Great Scarfer. In this draft, it really allowed him to, not just do choice scarfing, since his speed tier was not considered very slow. He was able to run other things like, Sub Protect Toxic, or Choice Banded, or even Life Orb, if that's what you're going to go with. And then we have Beheeyem, which was a T5 pick, which was really nice. With Analytic going second. It's pretty bulky Pokemon. 75 HP, 75 defense, 90. Is it 90? 95 special defense. So, fairly bulky Pokemon, especially for this draft. Able to fire off a lot of really strong attacks with that Analytic, also allowing me to run Colbur Berry, since Analytic is basically a free Life Orb with no recoil, which was really nice. So, or just change up my itemization. However, not just Colbur Berry. You have Psychic, Psyshock, Thunderbolt, Flash Cannon, Dark Pulse, and then it has awesome setup: Calm Mind, Cosmic Power, Nasty Plot, and Stored Power, which were really awesome. A really neat set that I really wanted to try and use, but just didn't find a match to use it in. Potentially in Jonas's match, I think it could have been viable. Had I known Aurora's learned Haze, I think it would have been a fun set to try and do. Is Power Herb, Meteor Beam. This thing would have been hitting like a freaking cannon after that boost, and Meteor Beam would be hit pretty hard on most Pokemon. The Lantern probably would have covered it really well. But yeah, that would have been a fun set. I think that would have been cool. And then we have Rotom Fan, which is more offensive utility. So you have Volt Switch, Air Slash, Hidden Power, which is really nice, and then Nasty Plot. Typically not an offensive Pokemon for this team, but a good offensive option if Volt Switch is really viable, or Thunderbolt, or Air Slash. So overall, great offensive utility Pokemon in my opinion. And then we have Clawitzer, Mega Launcher. I'm surprised this Pokemon was not picked up in either league. I don't think Sword League had it. I know Shield didn't for sure because I haven't. Really awesome. I mean, flip turn, U-turn, so it's momentum, and it could be slow momentum or fast momentum if you choice scarf it. Mega Launcher just allows it to hit like a ton of bricks. It's allowing to boost those moves that are pulse or beam moves, or sphere, cannon. So you have Water Pulse, Ice Beam, Dark Pulse, Flash Cannon, or Sphere, Sludge Wave, and then the flip turn, U-turn, and of course Hidden Power if you need it. But generally that Water Pulse stab, if it's not, a water absorber or a water type, is going to hit basically everything very, very hard. Probably harder than Hidden Power in most cases. So the wall breaker of this team for sure. So definitely a very threatening Pokemon to try and prep for, especially with its coverage. You know, if you want to lead this and the opponent decides to lead, you know, not aggressively, this is a pretty hard Pokemon to deal with right off the bat. So an awesome Pokemon in this type of draft, in my, especially as a T5. I think that was absolutely wild that it was T5. And then we have Thwacky. So my favorite offensive pick here. I will get into him into another video. Even though there's not much to talk about him, but he's my favorite pick. So the Grassy Surge, Grassy Glide was basically why this Pokemon was drafted. Supplementing my speed with priority, which was really important considering my speed really only consisted of Ambipom. That Grassy Surge, Grassy Glide is a really threatening combination, boosting my Grassy Glide, allowing me to run Eviolite, which is really nice. And then you have U-Turn, Knock Off, Wood Hammer if you need that extra power, Drain Punch, Swords Dance, and Fake Out. So very potent Pokemon. That Grassy Glide was really important in Shield Draft, especially with people like Robin who have Feraligatr running around, and other Pokemon that just like to, you know, set up and sweep with Dragon Dance, Agility, Rock Polish, whatever the case is. A very, very good offensive threat to halt a sweep. So that's it offensively, though. I could go really far in depth just because it's my own team, but that's something I don't want to do in these videos, is focus just, you know, more on my team. But defensively, I scored my team a 7.5. Write this down. What the hell? So maybe you're thinking this one could be lower or higher. I think my defense was easily taken advantage of. These Pokemon, you know, don't offer much offensively if they're brought defensively. So especially Florges, this Pokemon easily taken advantage of, set up on. Although I have a nice Fairy Dragon Steel Core, the Dragon and Steel unfortunately share Earthquake weaknesses, which really sucked in the end, having to prepare for that each week. But the Fairy and Steel Core was really nice. If there was some way to, if Florges had more coverage, I think this would have worked a lot better. But yes, so the thing defensively here is a lot of my defensive options share weaknesses, which or just my team in general share a lot of weaknesses. So you have, you know, Thwacky, Rotom, and Mega Ampharos all sharing that ice weakness. You have Registeel and Ambipom sharing that fighting weakness. Registeel, Mega Ampharos sharing earthquake weakness. You know, things like that. Obviously I picked up Pokemon to cover those things, but it is things like that I think brought this defense down a lot. That shared weaknesses, especially spammable moves that a lot of Pokemon learn, Earthquake and Ice Beam. And as we see in the end, Freeze Dry was an absolute killer for this team. You know, Freeze Dry hits Clawitzer, it hits Thwacky, it hits Rotom, it hits Mega Ampharos. Just an absolute destructive move to this team. So Ice Beam and Earthquake being really, really crucial against this team. It was really hard to deal with. But that's definitely what brings us down defensively. Now, what I have going for this team defensively is Florida's having access to Defog, Heal Bell, Wish. Passing was really nice, allowing me to keep Registeel or Thwacky or whoever I need to keep alive. Not to mention it has Synthesis if you need to keep yourself alive, or Toxic. And then Registeel having Stealth Rock, Toxic, T-Wave, and the classic Iron Defense Body Press set for a little bit more offensive utility so you don't get set up on. And then very reliable damage in Heavy Slam and Seismic Toss. And of course, have Rotom Fan, Defog, Will-O-Wisp, Toxic, T-Wave, Pain Split, Volt Switch, and Screens. Really good defensive Pokemon for this team. It really kind of synced up a lot of my compositions, allowing Florges to run different things, free up spots for Florges. You know, the Volt Switch was really nice as well to get in some more offensive threats or just get into another defensive Pokemon. As we've seen, Florges and Rotom and Registeel were a pretty big core for me, so definitely an important Pokemon on this defense. And then I'm going to mention Beheeyem. While it's not like a, staple defensive Pokemon, the teleport was really a really incredible move. Getting that negative priority and getting me a free switch to either getting Clawitzer or, offensive Passimian or Mega Ampharos or whoever it is that is needing to come in and wall break or sweep or whatever the case. Having that free switch is really incredible. Not to mention it has Future Sight, reliable recovery in cover, and Toxic T-Wave and Trick for other defensive options. And then, of course, I read you his stats before: 75 HP, 75 defense, 95 special defense. So a decent defensive Pokemon if needed. Not to mention it has Synchronize. If the opponent you're going to be facing is bringing a lot of toxic hazards or status, you could definitely bring that Synchronize, switch it in. Not soak it up, but you can take it and then you can give it to the opponent, which is really nice in some cases. So then we have Thwackey, which really helps this defense a lot, weakening that Earthquake weakness on Mega Ampharos and Registeel. Was really nice. The defensive options are not really big. I mean, it has Eviolite, which allowed me to switch in a lot more often than what you should be able to. The Eviolite Grassy Surge was really nice, and then of course Leech Seed and U-Turn as the defensive utility options. So not a bad defensive team here, just a lot of shared weaknesses that were kind of spammable and hard to deal with in terms of preps. So that's what's going to bring this defense down to a 7.5. Overall, a very bulky defense, just a defense that I think could be taken advantage of. So, and then next we have hazards. Sorry, not hazards. Next we have speed, 1702, which I scored a 7. So this score I think is really justifiable. While I don't have very good speed, I have priority, and I think that's going to bump it from a 6 to 7. Really, my only speed threats are Ambipom and Passimian, and then Thwackey with 80 and Florges with 75. So I'll just read out all my speeds for you guys so you guys can understand how slow this team actually is. Florges 75, Registeel 50, Mega Ampharos 45, Ambipom 115, Passimian 80, Beheeyem 40, Rotom Fan 86, Clawitzer 59, Thwackey 80. So it's very up and down, but I really don't have a lot of Pokemon that are that fast. I hit that 80 mark and above it a few times here, which is nice. It allowed me not to be really taken advantage of in the speed category. But there was a lot of faster teams, so and a lot of obnoxiously fast. I mean, I think there's Reggie, his Mega Sceptile. I think if I scarfed, just want to check here. I know my Clawitzer was not able to outspeed its Scarf, which was really, really sucky. Yeah, so the only one that I would be able to outspeed with here is Passimian. Yeah, so Passimian, so even that hitting that base 80, Passimian and Thwackey will not outspeed that Mega Sceptile, which was really, really shitty. Super fast Pokemon. The only Pokemons that I have that would outspeed that is Ambipom, and you definitely don't want to Choice Lock Ambipom. Banded maybe, but definitely not Choice Scarf. And then Rotom Fan, which Rotom Fan was a viable Scarfer Tricker. So I think that's not a bad, but you see what I'm saying. The team has a lot of slow Pokemon. I mean, Registeel, Mega Ampharos, Beheeyem, and then Clawitzer. Especially Clawitzer being an offensive option, and a Pokemon that could potentially clean with its move pool. It really hurt this team. So that speed at 7 I think is very justifiable. I didn't have a lot of options to control speed either. T-Wave and Mega Ampharos, T-Wave and Registeel, T-Wave and Rotom Fan, and that's really it. And T-Wave on those Pokemon, I mean, Registeel being the most viable for that, it just, taking away that move slot from Registeel 2 really hurts. So not a lot of options to control speed, and not a lot of speed in general. So I tried to supplement that with priority. Ambipom having Fake Out and Thwacky having Grassy Glide allowed me to make sure that teams that are going to be setting up with speed don't get out of control. I can definitely save those Pokemon and deal with it like that. Again, though, if those Pokemon go down, my team is not very fast. So definitely being able to take advantage of in that speed category. And then we have hazards. So hazards, I think this one definitely could have been lower. I think I have a reliable hazard setter, but 25. So for hazards, you have Florges, Rotom Fan, and Registeel. So I mean, you have hazards in Thwacky with Leech Seed, and then you have status, which I usually mention, but really the only status and hazards are really going to be coming from Florges, Registeel, and Rotom. Not very many options here, and Rotom being a Pokemon that probably needs to run heavy duty boots if it's coming as a defogger. Registeel having Stealth Rocks, Toxic, T-Wave, and Florges having Defog. So I mean, I have really reliable options in terms of hazards and hazard removal, but it's very obvious which Pokemon are going to be doing this in the match when brought. So not having a ton of options to do this, I think, really hurt this team in terms of preparing for it. That's why that hazard is at a 7. So, Registeel being forced to run rocks if the opponent is, very much hurt by rocks, I think was a very, very big hindrance to this team, and not being able to run rocks or something on somebody else was a big detriment. So, but last but not least, sorry, I'm kind of flying through my team here. I really don't want to be on it for like a long time, which I think I could be. I just don't think that it's fair to do that. So momentum, definitely the best part of my team in my opinion. Just one sec here. 21. Sorry, guys. Definitely the best part of my team here, and really what I like to run the most. So I have a lot of options for Volt Turn or Flip Turning on my team. You have Volt Switch on Mega Ampharos, U-Turn on Ambipom, U-Turn on Pissimian, Teleport on Beheeyem, Volt Switch on Rotom, U-Turn or Flip Turn on Clawitzer, and U-Turn on Thwacky. So allowing me to shift momentum in my way lots of times, allowing me to bring matches back by getting predictions correct. So the momentum on this team is very strong. Mega Ampharos can Volt Switch off into Thwacky. Thwacky can U-Turn off into things like Florges or Clawitzer, depending on who you think is coming in. A lot of options to switch into, and a lot of options to make those Volt Turn cores with. A very, very strong part of this team. So those are all the Volt Turning momentum options. As for offensive momentum and snowballing momentum, you have things like Iron Defense, Body Press on Registeel. Really great on Registeel just because he's 150 base defense, special defense. Pretty unchecked. You can't Toxic him, so you don't have to run Rest if you don't want to. You could just run Iron Defense, Body Press, Stealth Rock, Heavy Slam, or something like that, right? Just to make sure people don't just set up on you thinking that you're, pretty passive. Very, very good snowbally option here. Could definitely get out of hand. Then you have Bulk Up Pissimian, which we've seen Louis do, which is a very strong option on him, especially with Drain Punch. Pretty hard to deal with at some points in the match. And then, unfortunately, Cosmic Power didn't work out, but this is a really great option on Beheeyem since he's pretty bulky. You have Cosmic Power, Stored Power. You have Nasty Plot, which just makes him an absolute beast, especially with Analytic. Pair that with, like Life Orb, Analytic, Nasty Plot. I mean, this thing's going to be basically one-hit KOing anything with Psychic, even resisted. So pretty hard to deal with that. Easily get out of control, especially if you're running like Trick Room, Nasty Plot, or something like that. Ridiculous. What makes him snowball out of control, though, is obviously his bulk, but his reliable recovery and recover. I mean, it's a really strong option. Really, one of the ways the ways to beat this is just Toxic him if he's not running Rest. So then you have Rotom Fan with Nasty Plot. Like I said, Not the best option on this type of team. Definitely needs to be a defogger or a utility Pokemon to cover up the weaknesses of this team. But definitely a viable option if Air Slash is good or Thunderbolt Discharge is good. So, and with Rotom Speed and Bulk, Pokemon that can easily get out of hand. Easily get out of hand, but easily controlled as well. So, and then you have Thwacky with Swords Dance. Unfortunately, I did not get to use this set, but a very strong set if you're running, Terrain Extender, Swords Dance. Grassy Glide, pretty hard to deal with. This thing's going to be smacking you and hitting you with priority. So, it can take out a lot of Pokemon before it goes down, especially if you're running it as a Kamikaze. You send it out first, you Swords Dance, you get in there like that, right? Obviously not as good as its full evolution in Rillaboom, but still a monster in this type of draft, in my opinion. So, that's it for my momentum, guys. That's it for my team. That's it for the draft analysis. I'm really happy that I was able to get these done, and I do want to apologize for it being a little bit, some videos here, some videos there, some videos not this week. My schedule for work was just out of control. It was really hard to manage these videos with my work schedule. Sometimes I'm out of town for days, sometimes I'm in town for one day, and sometimes my schedule's I work Sunday, and blah blah blah. The list goes on. Anyways, for those of you who watched and enjoyed these, I really appreciate it. And yeah, hopefully we'll see you guys on the next draft.